The massive starship Liberty drifted silently through the void of space as it approached the neutral world of Zerion Prime. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge watching the planet grow larger on the main screen. His hands were steady, but his heart raced with excitement and nervousness. After 300 years of dreaming about this moment, humanity was finally ready to meet the Galactic Council. The year was 2387, and humans had just perfected their quantum fold drive technology. This breakthrough allowed them to travel faster than light and reach the stars that had called to them for so long. The Liberty was the finest ship Earth had ever built, carrying the best and brightest representatives of the human race. Today, they would ask to join the most powerful organization in the known galaxy. Dr. Lisa Rodriguez walked up beside the captain and looked at the planet ahead. She was Earth's top expert on alien life and had spent years preparing for this meeting. Her dark hair was pulled back in a neat style and her brown eyes sparkled with curiosity. She carried a datapad filled with information about human achievements in science, medicine, and technology. "Are you ready for this, Lisa?" Jake asked quietly. He was a tall man with short brown hair and kind blue eyes. He had been chosen to lead this mission because of his calm nature and strong leadership skills. As ready as anyone can be for making first contact with 12 different alien species, Lisa replied with a nervous smile. "I just hope they can see past our reputation as warriors and understand what we really are." Commander Ryan Brooks joined them at the front of the bridge. He was responsible for showing the Council that humans could be trusted with advanced technology and military power. Ryan was shorter than Jake, but built like a soldier with broad shoulders and alert green eyes. His job was to prove that humanity deserved a place among the stars. The Liberty entered orbit around Zerion Prime, and Jake opened communications with the planet below. A cold mechanical voice responded in perfect English, which surprised everyone on the bridge. The translator technology was more advanced than anything humans had ever seen. "Human vessel Liberty, you are cleared to land at Docking Bay 7. You will be escorted to the Council chambers immediately upon arrival. Do not deviate from your assigned path." Jake looked around at his crew and nodded. "This is it, people. Everything we have worked for comes down to the next few hours. Let's show them what humanity is capable of." The ship descended through the atmosphere of Zerion Prime, and the crew got their first look at an alien world. The planet was covered in massive crystal structures that reached up toward the sky like frozen lightning. Strange vehicles moved between the buildings without making any sound. The air itself seemed to shimmer with colors that human eyes had never seen before. When the Liberty landed, Jake, Lisa, and Ryan were met by a group of alien guards. The creatures were tall and thin with silver skin that seemed to change color in the light. They wore no expressions on their faces and said nothing as they led the humans through corridors made of the same crystal material as the buildings outside. The council chambers were enormous and filled with representatives from 12 different alien species. Jake had studied pictures of these beings, but seeing them in person was overwhelming. The Zephyrians looked like tall birds with bright blue feathers and sharp beaks. The crystalline beings appeared to be made of living diamond. The Saurians resembled giant lizards that walked on two legs and had intelligent yellow eyes. At the center of the room sat Chancellor Vextar of the Zephyrians. His blue feathers were marked with gold patterns that showed his high rank. Next to him was Empress Silandra of the crystalline race. Her body was perfectly clear except for a soft blue glow that came from within. These two beings were the most powerful leaders in the galaxy. So, Chancellor Vextar spoke in a voice that sounded like wind through trees. The humans have finally decided to join civilized society. We have been watching your species for some time. Your history is filled with war, violence, and destruction. Why should we allow such creatures into our peaceful alliance? Jake stepped forward and bowed respectfully. Honored members of the council, we come before you today not as the humans of our past, but as the humans we have chosen to become. Yes, our history has dark moments, but we have learned from our mistakes. We have ended war on our world and united our people under one government dedicated to peace and exploration. Dr. Rodriguez activated her datapad and holographic images filled the air above the humans. We have made incredible advances in medicine that could help all species in the galaxy. Our scientists have found ways to cure diseases that have plagued other worlds for centuries. We have developed clean energy sources and ways to restore damaged environments. The images showed human hospitals, research centers, and cities powered by fusion reactors. They displayed the green parks and clean oceans of Earth. Lisa hoped these pictures would prove that humans had moved beyond their violent past. Commander Brooks stepped forward when the medical presentation ended. We also offer our skills in defense and exploration. Human military tactics are creative and adaptive. We do not seek conquest, but we will protect those who cannot protect themselves. Our ships are fast, and our soldiers are brave. The council members listened in silence as the humans made their case. Some of the aliens seemed interested in what they heard. Others appeared bored or annoyed. The Saurian representative kept making low, hissing sounds that the translator did not convert to words. When the presentation ended, Chancellor Vextar stood up slowly. His golden eyes looked down at the three humans with what could only be described as contempt. You speak of peace and progress, but we know what humans truly are. You are a young species that has barely learned to leave your own solar system. You think a few decades without major wars makes you civilized. Empress Silandra's voice was like the sound of wind chimes when she spoke. Your kind spreads across worlds like a plague, consuming resources and changing everything to suit your needs. You do not adapt to new environments. You force environments to adapt to you. This is not the way of civilized beings. The Saurian delegate finally spoke up, his voice a deep rumble that made the humans' bones vibrate. Your species still carries weapons and maintains armies. Peaceful beings have no need for such things. You claim to have ended war, but you are still prepared for it. This proves you have not truly changed. Jake felt his heart sinking as alien after alien spoke against humanity. He had hoped that their achievements would be enough to convince the council, but it was clear that these ancient races had already made up their minds. They saw humans as nothing more than dangerous children playing with toys too advanced for them. Furthermore, Chancellor Vextar continued, your quantum fold. Technology is crude and dangerous. You tear holes in space without understanding the consequences. Several council worlds have detected gravitational anomalies caused by your reckless experimentation. You threaten the stability of local space with your ignorance. The debate went on for hours as council members took turns explaining why humanity was not ready to join their organization. They called humans violent, reckless, arrogant, and primitive. Some suggested that humans should be confined to their own solar system until they matured as a species. Others recommended limiting human technology to prevent them from causing more damage. Finally, Chancellor Vexatar called for a vote. All those in favor of granting membership to the human species, raise your appendages now. Not a single alien moved. The chamber fell completely silent as the reality of the situation became clear. Humanity had been unanimously rejected by every member of the Galactic Council. But the rejection was not the end of it. Empress Silandra stood, and her crystalline body seemed to grow brighter as she spoke. The Council has decided that humanity poses a threat to galactic peace and stability. Therefore, we hereby banish your species from all Council-controlled space. You have 30 standard days to remove all human ships and personnel from our territory. The Saurian delegate added his own cruel touch to the announcement. Perhaps in a few thousand years your kind will learn proper behavior. Until then, remain in your little corner of space where you belong, and do not trouble civilized beings with your presence. Jake, Lisa, and Ryan stood in stunned silence as the full weight of the Council's decision hit them. They had not just been rejected for membership. They had been cast out of 90% of the known galaxy like unwanted criminals. The 3 humans were escorted back to their ship without ceremony. As the Liberty lifted off from Zerion Prime, Jake looked back at the Crystal Cities one last time. The alien world that had seemed so beautiful when they arrived now looked cold and unwelcoming. The journey back to Earth was quiet and tense. Jake sent regular reports to Admiral Susan Clark and President William Hayes, but there was little to say beyond the basic facts. Humanity had been judged and found wanting by the powers that controlled the galaxy. When they finally arrived at Earth, Jake was surprised by what he found waiting for them. Instead of despair and defeat, he saw determination in the faces of his fellow humans. President Hayes addressed the world on every communication channel, and his words carried a tone that Jake had not expected. 6 months had passed since the humiliating rejection at Zerion Prime, but Earth looked nothing like a world in defeat. Instead of mourning their banishment from Council space, humans had transformed their anger into the largest mobilization effort in their history. Every major city buzzed with activity as factories worked around the clock to build ships, weapons, and equipment for what President William Hayes had called Operation Exodus. Dr. Lisa Rodriguez stood in her new laboratory deep beneath the surface of Luna Base, examining pieces of alien technology that human scouts had quietly gathered during their brief time in Council space. The rejection had stung deeply, but it had also given her a purpose that burned brighter than any academic curiosity. The Council thought humans were too primitive to understand advanced technology. She intended to prove them wrong. "Tony, come. Look at this," Lisa called to her research partner. Dr. Tony Chen was a brilliant engineer who had been working on improving human ship designs since the day they returned from Zerion Prime. His black hair was messy from long hours in the workshop, and his brown eyes were tired but excited. Tony hurried over to Lisa's workstation, where she had connected a Zephyrian power cell to a human quantum fold drive. "The energy output is incredible," Lisa explained, pointing to readings on her screen. "Their technology uses principles we never considered. If we can understand how they generate this much power in such a small device, we could increase our ship range by 300%. 300%, Tony repeated, his mind already racing with possibilities. That would let us reach star systems the Council has never even explored. We could establish colonies so far away that they would never find us." This was exactly the kind of breakthrough that Admiral Susan Clark had been hoping for. She walked into the laboratory at that moment, her military uniform crisp despite the late hour. Susan had been promoted to head of the newly formed Deep Space Command, an organization dedicated to expanding human presence beyond Council territory. "How soon can you have prototypes ready?" Susan asked without any greeting. She had no time for pleasantries when humanity's future was at stake. "Give us 3 weeks," Tony replied confidently. "We have been working on hybrid designs that combine the best of human engineering with what we learned from Council technology. The new ships will be faster, tougher, and more adaptable than anything either side has ever built." Admiral Clark nodded approvingly. "Good, because Captain Morrison is going to need every advantage he can get. The President just approved the first wave of the expansion plan. Jake will be leading a fleet of 20 ships to establish our first colony beyond Council borders." Jake Morrison had also been promoted since returning from Zerion Prime. He was now Admiral Morrison, and his new responsibility was enormous. He had been chosen to lead the most important mission in human history, finding new worlds where humans could build a civilization that the Council could never threaten or control. The promotion ceremony had been small and private, held in President Hayes's office rather than in front of crowds and cameras. Jake stood before his commander-in-chief, wearing the silver stars of his new rank and feeling the weight of humanity's hopes on his shoulders. "Jake, I want you to understand what we are really doing here," President Hayes said seriously. "This is not just about finding new places to live. This is about proving that humans deserve respect from the galaxy, whether the Council wants to give it to us or not." "I understand, sir," Jake replied. "We will establish colonies that are strong, peaceful, and independent. When the Council finally realizes they made a mistake, we will negotiate from a position of strength rather than begging for scraps." Meanwhile, Colonel Amy Peters was busy training the new generation of human soldiers who would protect these distant colonies. Amy was a combat veteran who had served in the last conflicts on Earth before humanity united under one government. She was small but fierce, with red hair and green eyes that could intimidate recruits twice her size. Her training facility on Mars had been expanded to accommodate thousands of volunteers who wanted to serve in the Deep Space Defense Force. Amy had developed new tactics that combined traditional human military strategies with lessons learned from studying Council warfare patterns. Her soldiers learned to fight in zero-gravity, hostile atmospheres, and against enemies with technology they had never seen before. "The Council thinks we are just violent primitives," Amy told her latest group of trainees as they practiced combat maneuvers in powered armor. "They expect us to fight like barbarians with crude weapons and simple tactics. We are going to show them what human creativity can accomplish when it is properly focused." Dr. Kevin Walsh worked alongside Amy to give human forces every possible advantage. Kevin was a scientist who specialized in studying alien biology and psychology. His research had revealed something remarkable about human genetics that even the Council did not fully understand. "Humans are incredibly adaptable compared to other species," Kevin explained to a meeting of military and scientific leaders. "Most alien races evolved on worlds with stable conditions and never needed to develop our flexibility. They struggle to adjust when faced with new situations or unexpected challenges." "What does that mean for our expansion plans?" Admiral Clark asked. "It means we can survive and thrive on worlds that Council species would find impossible to colonize," Kevin continued. "We can also think our way out of problems that would stop other races completely. Our genetic diversity is actually a strategic advantage that we have never fully appreciated." This discovery led to changes in how humans selected colony sites and military strategies. Instead of looking for worlds similar to Earth, They began targeting planets with extreme conditions that Council species avoided. Desert worlds with scorching temperatures, ice planets with frozen atmospheres, and high-gravity worlds that would crush most aliens became prime targets for human settlement. The Council had given humanity 30 days to withdraw from their territory, and humans had complied exactly as ordered. But what the aliens did not know was that the withdrawal had been carefully planned to leave behind hidden supply caches and intelligence networks. Small teams of human operatives remained in Council space, disguised as traders or tourists, gathering information about alien military capabilities and political tensions. Commander Ryan Brooks had been placed in charge of these covert operations. His official title was Director of External Affairs, but everyone knew he was really running Earth's first interstellar spy network. Ryan had always been good at reading people, and his talents proved just as useful for understanding alien psychology. The Council is not as united as they pretend to be, Ryan reported during a classified briefing. The Zephyrians and crystalline races dominate the alliance, but several smaller species are growing tired of being treated as junior partners. If we can find the right approach, we might be able to turn some of them into allies. What about their military strength? Admiral Clark asked. Impressive on paper, but they have grown lazy during centuries of peace. Their fleets are designed for intimidation rather than actual combat. Most importantly, they have never faced an enemy that fights the way humans do. Their tactics are formal and predictable because they assume all civilized beings follow the same rules of engagement. As the months passed, human preparations became more sophisticated and ambitious. Tony Chen's shipyards began producing vessels that looked nothing like traditional human designs. The new Defiance-class battleships were sleek and angular, incorporating self-repairing hulls made from crystalline materials reverse-engineered from Council technology. Their weapon systems could be reconfigured during battle to adapt to new threats, and their quantum fold drives could jump farther and faster than any ship in space. But perhaps the most important development was not technological, but psychological. The rejection by the Council had unified humanity in a way that decades of peace had never accomplished. Old national boundaries and ethnic divisions seemed petty compared to the challenge of proving themselves worthy of their place among the stars. Dr. Lisa Rodriguez often worked late into the night, driven by a determination that surprised even her. She had always been a dedicated scientist, but the Council's dismissal of human achievement had ignited something fierce and uncompromising in her nature. Every breakthrough in understanding alien technology felt like a small victory against the arrogance of species that thought themselves superior. They called us primitive, Lisa muttered to herself, as she successfully integrated Saurian shield technology with human power systems. Let's see how primitive this looks when it stops. Their best weapons cold. The first test of the new technology came sooner than expected. A Council patrol ship detected unusual energy signatures near the edge of their territory and moved to investigate. What they found was a small human research vessel conducting what appeared to be routine scientific surveys. The alien captain, a Zephyrian named Sub-Commander Krell, decided to intimidate the humans by demanding they submit to inspection. Human vessel, you are approaching restricted space. Prepare to be boarded for security screening. The human captain, Commander Beth, Lewis, responded calmly. We are in neutral territory conducting legitimate research. You have no authority here. 2 years after the first colony ships left Earth, Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of his flagship, watching the construction of humanity's 47th colony world. The planet below was a harsh desert world that the Council had marked as uninhabitable, but human engineers had turned it into a thriving industrial center within 18 months. Massive atmospheric processors worked day and night to make the air breathable, while underground cities provided comfortable living spaces for 2 million human colonists. The transformation had exceeded every projection made by the planners back on Earth. What was supposed to be a slow, careful expansion had become an explosion of human settlement across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. Each new world brought discoveries that advanced human technology and understanding. More importantly, each colony proved that humans could not only survive in the hostile universe, but could make it better. "Admiral, we have incoming ships on long-range sensors," reported Commander Beth Lewis from the bridge. She had been promoted after her successful encounter with the Council Patrol and now served as Jake's second-in-command. "The energy signatures match Corvin Republic vessels." Jake smiled at the news. The Corvin Republic was one of the most important discoveries of the expansion period. 3 months earlier, human scouts had encountered a coalition of alien species that had been driven from their home systems by Council expansion centuries ago. These forgotten peoples had been forced to live on the edges of known space, struggling to survive while the Council enjoyed the wealth of their former worlds. First contact with the Corvin had been tense and dangerous. Captain Lisa Rodriguez, now head of the Diplomatic Corps, had led the meeting aboard a neutral station in unclaimed space. The Corvin delegation was led by Admiral Thex, a reptilian being whose scales showed the scars of old battles. His people had learned to distrust all strangers, especially those with advanced technology. "You claim to be enemies of the Council," Admiral Thex had said suspiciously. "But your ships use technology similar to theirs. How do we know this is not some trap designed to locate our hidden bases?" Lisa had understood the aliens' caution. The Corvin and their allies had spent 300 years hiding from Council forces that hunted them like criminals. "We were rejected by the Council because they feared what we might become," she explained patiently. "They banished us from their space and told us never to return. We have no love for beings who think themselves superior to all other life in the galaxy." To prove human sincerity, Lisa had shared detailed intelligence about Council military positions and patrol routes that human spies had gathered. She also offered medical assistance for Corvin refugees who had been injured in recent skirmishes with Council forces. The gesture of trust had convinced Admiral Thex that humans might be different from other species he had encountered. The alliance that grew from that first meeting had changed everything for both sides. The Corvin Republic included 12 species that had been displaced by Council expansion over the millennia. They possessed knowledge of ancient technologies and hidden resources that the Council had forgotten or ignored. Most importantly, they understood how to fight a guerrilla war against a larger and more powerful enemy. In exchange, humans offered something the Corvin had lost hope of ever having again: the ability to build permanent homes without fear of war. Discovery. Human settlements were too far from Council space to be easily detected, and human technology made them virtually invisible to long-range sensors. For the first time in centuries, Corvin families could raise their children on stable worlds instead of wandering refugee fleets. The integration had not been easy at first. Commander Ryan Brooks, now Director of Alliance Intelligence, had worked tirelessly to overcome cultural differences and mutual suspicions. Humans were naturally aggressive and direct in their communication, while many Corvin species preferred subtle and indirect approaches. Some aliens found human emotional expressions confusing or threatening. "The key is patience," Ryan had explained to human colonial administrators. These people have been betrayed by allies before. They need to see that we keep our promises over time, not just in the moment. The breakthrough came when human engineers helped the Corvin reclaim one of their lost homeworlds. The planet Zerath had been abandoned 50 years earlier, when Council forces had established a mining operation in the same system. Corvin leaders had assumed it was lost forever, but human strategists saw an opportunity. Colonel Amy Peters, now General Peters and commander of Alliance military forces, had planned the operation personally. Her forces included human Marines working alongside Corvin commandos and warriors from 6 other allied species. The assault on the Council mining facility was swift and decisive, combining human technology with alien knowledge of the terrain and defenses. The Council expects resistance to follow predictable patterns, Amy had told her mixed-species assault team before the attack. They have procedures for dealing with standard tactics and conventional weapons. We are going to hit them with combinations they have never seen before. The battle for Zerath lasted only 6 hours. Council forces were completely overwhelmed by attackers who seemed to appear from nowhere, strike with devastating precision, and vanish before reinforcements could arrive. Human adaptive camouflage combined with Corvin stealth technology made the assault troops effectively invisible. When the mining facility surrendered, its commander reported that he had been attacked by ghosts. The liberation of Zerath became a symbol of what the Alliance could accomplish together. Within a year, Corvin families were returning to cities they had thought lost forever. Human engineers worked alongside alien architects to rebuild damaged infrastructure using the best technology from both civilizations. Children who had never seen their ancestral homeworld played in parks that their grandparents had built. Dr. Tony Chen had established mobile shipyards that moved from system to system, building vessels that incorporated design elements from all member species of the growing alliance. The new ships were unlike anything seen in the galaxy before. Corvin hull materials that could regenerate damage were combined with human weapons systems and propulsion technology from other allied races. The flagship of this new fleet was the Earthship Unity, a massive vessel that served as both Admiral Morrison's command center and a symbol of interspecies cooperation. Its crew included humans, Corvin, and representatives from 8 other species working together with an efficiency that amazed everyone involved. "I have served on Corvin ships for 40 years, admitted Chief Engineer Vex, a scaled being whose people were master technicians. But I have never seen such innovation and creativity. Human methods are chaotic and unpredictable, but they produce results that careful planning never could. The success of the Alliance attracted other displaced species who had heard rumors of a place where refugees could find new homes and respect. The Nethrani were energy beings who had been forced from their dimension by Council experiments. The Valdek were silicon-based life forms whose crystal homeworld had been strip-mined by Council corporations. Each new member brought unique capabilities that strengthened the whole. Dr. Kevin Walsh had established the Alliance Academy on the human colony world of New Geneva. This institution brought together the brightest minds from all member species to share knowledge and develop new technologies. Human students learned ancient Corvin meditation techniques that improved their mental focus, while alien scholars studied human approaches to problem-solving that emphasized creativity over tradition. "We are witnessing the birth of a truly galactic civilization," Kevin reported to President Hayes during a regular communication session. "Not one dominated by a few powerful species, but one where diversity is seen as strength rather than weakness. The political structure of the Free Alliance as it had come to be known, was based on principles that the Council had never considered. Instead of a rigid hierarchy with dominant and subject races, the Alliance operated as a true democracy where each member species had an equal voice in major decisions. Disputes were resolved through negotiation and compromise rather than force or intimidation. Captain Lisa Rodriguez had become the Alliance's chief diplomat and cultural exchange coordinator. Her job was to help different species understand each other and work together despite their varied backgrounds and traditions. She had learned to speak 12 different languages and could navigate the complex social customs of beings whose ancestors had evolved under alien suns. The Council rules through fear and strength, Lisa often explained to new Alliance members. We succeed through cooperation and respect. Every species brings something valuable to our community, and no one is considered superior to anyone else. This philosophy was tested when the proud Zarthan Empire requested membership in the Alliance. The Zarthans were an ancient race of warrior poets who had maintained their independence for thousands of years through superior military technology and tactical brilliance. They had never been conquered by the Council, but they had also never been accepted as equals. Emperor Caldrus himself came to negotiate with Alliance leaders, something that shocked diplomatic observers throughout the region. The inevitable moment of truth arrived on a Tuesday morning when Council forces encountered what they expected to be another minor pirate raid in disputed space near the Kepler sector. The Zephyrian cruiser Dominion was conducting routine patrol duties when its sensors detected a small convoy of unknown vessels crossing through what the Council considered their territory. Captain Amy Peters commanded the lead ship in the human convoy, the destroyer Endeavor, as it escorted 3 cargo vessels carrying supplies to Alliance colonies in the Outer Rim. Amy had been expecting this confrontation for months and had carefully chosen this route to send a message that would reach the highest levels of Council leadership. Unknown vessels, you are trespassing in Council space, came the transmission from the Dominion. Halt your ships and prepare to be boarded for inspection. Amy activated her own communication system and responded in a calm, professional tone that she hoped would be recorded for later analysis. This is Captain Peters of the Free Alliance Defense Force. We are traveling through neutral space on legitimate business. You have no authority to detain us. The silence that followed lasted nearly 30 seconds as the Zephyrian captain processed what he had just heard. The Free Alliance was unknown to Council databases, and the energy signatures from the human ships did not match any technology in their files. Most disturbing of all, the lead vessel appeared to be generating defensive fields that were somehow interfering with the Dominion's targeting systems. I am Sub-Commander Krell of the Galactic Council Fleet, the alien responded with growing irritation. There is no such thing as the Free Alliance, and these are Council territories claimed by right of conquest over 10,000 years ago. Surrender immediately or face destruction. Amy had been hoping for exactly this kind of arrogant response. Her ship was equipped with the latest Alliance technology, including recording devices that would capture every word of the conversation. When this encounter was over, the entire galaxy would hear a Council officer threatening peaceful travelers in neutral space. Sub-Commander Krell, I suggest you contact your superiors before taking any action you might regret, Amy replied. The Free Alliance is a sovereign government representing over 50 species and 200 star systems. We will defend ourselves if attacked. The Zephyrian captain was faced with a situation that his training had never prepared him to handle. The unknown ships were clearly more advanced than his intelligence reports suggested possible, but his orders were clear about maintaining Council authority in all claimed territories. Pride and protocol demanded that he assert dominance over these mysterious vessels. "You have 10 seconds to cut your engines and prepare for boarding," Sub-Commander Krell announced. "Failure to comply will be considered an act of war against the Galactic Council." Amy smiled grimly as she gave her crew the signal they had been waiting for. "All ships, implement defensive protocols. Show them what Alliance technology can do." The battle that followed lasted exactly 4 minutes and 17 seconds, but its effects would reshape the political structure of the entire galaxy. The Dominion opened fire with its primary energy weapons, expecting to disable or destroy the smaller human ships within moments. Instead, the Alliance vessels generated defensive shields that absorbed the Council attack without any apparent damage. The human response was swift and precisely targeted. Instead of trying to destroy the Council cruiser, Amy ordered her weapons officer to disable its engines, communications, and weapon systems using surgical strikes that demonstrated superior accuracy and control. The Endeavor's advanced targeting, computers enhanced with Corvin sensor technology and Zarthan tactical algorithms, made the Zephyrian ship helpless within minutes. "Sub-Commander Krell, your vessel is disabled but intact," Amy announced over open channels. "This was a demonstration of Alliance capabilities, not an attempt to harm your crew. I suggest you report to your superiors that the galaxy has changed while they were not paying attention." The crippled Dominion could only drift helplessly as the Alliance convoy continued on its course, leaving behind a Zephyrian crew that was struggling to understand what had just happened to them. The distress signal that eventually reached Council Space carried a message that Chancellor Vexitar and his advisors had never expected to hear. "This is Sub-Commander Krell reporting a Code 7 emergency," the transmission began. "My vessel has been defeated by unknown forces using superior technology. The attackers identified themselves as representing something called the Free Alliance. They claim to control 200 star systems and threatened war if we interfere with their operations." The emergency session of the Galactic Council that followed was marked by confusion, denial, and growing alarm as the implications of the report became clear. Empress Silandra reviewed the sensor data from the Dominion 3 times before accepting that it was accurate and unaltered. "This is impossible," she declared to the assembled council members. "There are no unknown civilizations with this level of technology. Our surveys have mapped every inhabited system in the galaxy." Chancellor Vexitar was more concerned with the political implications than the technical details. If this Free Alliance truly controls 200 systems, they represent a challenge to Council authority that cannot be ignored. We must determine who they are and what they want before this situation escalates further. The investigation that followed revealed fragments of truth that horrified Council leadership. Intelligence reports mentioned human ships working alongside vessels from species that the Council had thought extinct or irrelevant. Energy signatures matched technology that seemed to combine Council innovations with unknown advances. Most disturbing of all, there were reports of entire sectors being colonized by beings who had appeared from nowhere. It was Director Siltek who finally made the connection that explained everything. "Chancellor, I believe we are dealing with the humans we rejected 3 years ago. The timing matches and several of the energy signatures are consistent with their primitive quantum fold technology." "Impossible," Empress Silandra repeated. "The humans were a single-world species with crude technology. They could never have achieved this level of advancement in such a short time." But the evidence was overwhelming, and it painted a picture that made the Council's worst fears seem conservative. The rejected humans had not only survived their banishment, but had used it as motivation to build something that threatened the very foundation of council power. Worse yet, they had somehow convinced other species to join them in this challenge to galactic order. Chancellor Vextar made the decision that would define the rest of the conflict. We cannot allow this insurrection to continue. The humans must be reminded of their place in the galaxy, and any species that has allied with them must face the consequences of defying Council authority. The mobilization of the Council fleet was the largest military operation in over 1,000 years. 12 dreadnoughts and 60 escort vessels were assembled under Chancellor Vextar's personal command, representing the combined might of the galaxy's oldest and most powerful civilizations. The force was large enough to conquer entire sectors and sophisticated enough to defeat any known military technology. Admiral Jake Morrison received intelligence reports about the Council fleet movement from Alliance spies embedded throughout enemy territory. The information confirmed what human leadership had been expecting since the confrontation with the Dominion. The Council was finally taking the Alliance seriously as a threat, but they were also making the mistake of approaching this as a conventional military problem. They think this is about territory and resources, Jake explained to the emergency meeting of Alliance leadership on the space station Haven. They believe that if they can defeat our military forces, the rest of our civilization will surrender and accept their authority. General Amy Peters studied the tactical displays showing Council fleet positions and smiled with grim satisfaction. They have no idea what they are really facing. This is not just about human colonies or even the Alliance. This is about whether the galaxy will be ruled by fear and hierarchy or by cooperation and respect. Dr. Kevin Walsh had spent months preparing for this moment by analyzing Council psychology and military doctrine. His research had revealed weaknesses that human strategists could exploit, but only if they abandoned conventional approaches to warfare. Council species think in terms of formal battles with clear objectives and predictable outcomes, Kevin reported. They expect their enemies to mass forces for direct confrontation. They have never faced an opponent that uses asymmetric tactics and psychological warfare as primary weapons. The Battle of Kepler Station began when Chancellor Vextar's fleet arrived in the system expecting to find a major Alliance military base defended by whatever forces the humans could muster. Instead, they discovered a massive space station orbiting a gas giant, surrounded by over 200 ships representing 15 different species flying under the banner of the Free Alliance. Admiral Susan Clark commanded the defense of Kepler Station from her flagship, the heavy cruiser Defiance. Susan had been promoted to Supreme Admiral of Alliance Forces and had spent 2 years preparing for exactly this kind of confrontation. 1 year after the Battle of Kepler Station, the crystal spires of Xerion Prime gleamed under a different kind of light as representatives from over 100 species gathered for the most important ceremony in galactic history. The planet where humanity had once been rejected and banished now hosted the founding assembly of the Free Alliance Constitutional Convention, where the future government of the galaxy was being written by beings who had learned that cooperation was stronger than conquest. President William Hayes stood at the podium in the renovated council chambers, but his title had changed along with everything else about galactic politics. He was now Chancellor Hayes, the first elected leader of the Free Alliance, chosen by democratic vote from representatives of every member species. The irony of his location was not lost on anyone present, but it served as a powerful symbol of how completely the galaxy had been transformed. 3 years ago, humanity came to this world seeking acceptance and found only rejection. Chancellor Hayes began his address to the assembled delegates. Today, we gather not as supplicants begging for a place at someone else's table, but as equals building a better table together. The audience included beings that the old Galactic Council had never bothered to contact or had dismissed as insignificant. Silicon-based life forms from crystal worlds, energy beings from higher dimensions, aquatic species from ocean planets, and dozens of other intelligent races that had been ignored by the previous galactic government. Each delegate wore translation devices that allowed perfect communication between species that had evolved under completely different conditions. Admiral Jake Morrison sat in the front row wearing the uniform of Supreme Commander of Alliance Forces, but his role had evolved far beyond military leadership. He had become the primary architect of the integration policies that allowed dozens of different species to work together effectively. His experiences exploring unknown regions of space had taught him that diversity was the galaxy's greatest resource when properly utilized. Dr. Lisa Rodriguez had been elected as the Alliance's first Secretary of Scientific Advancement, a position that gave her authority to coordinate research projects between species with completely different approaches to understanding the universe. Her work had led to breakthrough discoveries that neither humans nor their allies could have achieved independently. The old council ruled through fear and intimidation, Lisa explained to a gathering of research directors from across Alliance space. We succeed through sharing knowledge and combining our different perspectives to solve problems that seemed impossible when approached from a single viewpoint. The transformation of galactic civilization had not been accomplished through military conquest alone. As news of the Alliance victory at Kepler Station spread throughout Council territory, system after system had declared independence or requested to join the Democratic Confederation. The Council's authority had crumbled as their subject species realized they no longer had to submit to leaders who could be defeated by the very primitives they had claimed to protect them from. General Amy Peters commanded Alliance forces that were now spread across 8 spiral arms of the galaxy. But her soldiers spent more time building infrastructure and providing disaster relief than fighting battles. The military doctrine that had defeated the Council emphasized protection and assistance rather than domination and control. Our strength comes from the loyalty of people who know we fight for their freedom rather than our own power, Amy explained to a class of new officers at the Alliance Military Academy. Every world we protect, every species we assist, and every threat we eliminate makes the galaxy safer for everyone. The fall of the old council had not been sudden or violent. Instead, it had been a gradual collapse as member species realized that the Alliance offered something the council never could: genuine representation and respect for all forms of intelligent life. The rigid hierarchy that had maintained order for 10 millennia simply could not compete with a system that valued innovation and cooperation. Commander Ryan Brooks, now Director of Interspecies Relations, had played a crucial role in managing the transition period. His job was to help former Council species understand democratic principles and find their place in the new galactic community. Many aliens struggled with concepts like individual rights and collective decision-making that humans took for granted. The hardest part is convincing species that have been subjects for thousands of years that they can become citizens, Ryan reported during a meeting with Chancellor Hayes. Some of them are actually afraid of having political freedom because they have never been responsible for governing themselves. Dr. Kevin Walsh had established the Alliance Institute for Galactic Studies, where scholars from every member species worked together to develop new models of interspecies cooperation. His research had revealed that the old council's approach to government was not just morally wrong, but scientifically inefficient. Diversity of thought leads to better solutions for complex problems, Kevin explained in his landmark paper on galactic governance. The Council suppressed different viewpoints and approaches, which made them incapable of adapting to new challenges. The Alliance encourages multiple perspectives, which gives us advantages that no single species government could match. The economic transformation of the galaxy had been just as dramatic as the political changes. Under Council rule, trade had been controlled by a few powerful corporations that exploited resource-rich worlds while providing minimal compensation to local populations. The Alliance economic model emphasized fair trade partnerships and shared development projects that benefited all participants. Dr. Tony Chen had been appointed as Secretary of Technological Development, overseeing programs that shared advanced knowledge with every Alliance member, rather than hoarding it for the benefit of a few dominant species. His shipyards now produced vessels designed by integrated teams that combined the best ideas from dozens of different engineering traditions. Innovation happens fastest when different minds work together, Tony explained to a conference of industrial leaders. Human creativity, combined with Corvan precision and Zarthon strategic thinking, produces results that none of us could achieve alone. The cultural exchange programs that had begun during the early days of the Alliance had grown into a galaxy-wide renaissance of art, literature, and philosophy. Beings who had never been allowed to express their unique perspectives were now sharing their wisdom with the entire galactic community. Captain Beth Lewis had left military service to become the Alliance's first Director of Cultural Affairs, coordinating festivals and educational programs that celebrated the diversity of intelligent life. Her work had helped break down the prejudices and misunderstandings that had kept species isolated from each other for millennia. Every species has something beautiful and valuable to contribute to galactic civilization, Beth often said. The Council saw differences as problems to be managed. We see them as gifts to be shared. The arrival of the last holdout Council species had been the final confirmation that the old order was truly dead. The Saurian Republic, whose delegates had once mocked human ambition on Zerion Prime, formally requested membership in the Free Alliance after their government fell to a popular uprising demanding democratic reforms. The Saurian delegation was led by the same representative who had dismissed humans as primitive warriors 3 years earlier. Sub-Minister Kresh approached Chancellor Hayes with humility that would have been impossible under the old system of rigid hierarchies and absolute authority. Chancellor Hayes, I must begin by acknowledging the terrible mistake my people made. When we first encountered humanity, Sub-Minister Kresh admitted during the formal membership ceremony, we mocked your dreams because we had forgotten how to dream ourselves. The moment was broadcast across Alliance space and watched by billions of beings who remembered the original rejection of humanity by the Council. The transformation was complete. The species that had been banished for being too dangerous to include in galactic civilization had become the founders of a better civilization that welcomed everyone. Dr. Lisa Rodriguez played a recording of the original Council session where humanity had been rejected, then followed it with Sub-Minister Kresh's membership request. The contrast between the two events perfectly illustrated how completely the galaxy had changed. 3 years ago, you told us that humans should remain in our little corner of space where we belonged, Lisa reminded the Saurian representative. Today, you are asking to join the organization we built after you cast us out. What changed your mind? Sub-Minister Kresh's response captured the essence of what the Alliance had accomplished. You have reminded the galaxy that strength without vision is merely tyranny, and that those who dare to reach for the stars will eventually hold them. My people spent so long maintaining power that we forgot why power should be used in the first place. The Constitutional Convention continued for 6 months as delegates worked to create a government structure that could accommodate the needs and traditions of over 100 different species. The final document established a federal system where local autonomy was balanced with collective decision-making on issues that affected the entire galaxy.